Hello and welcome to Public Forum. I'm Shalini Verma. International Volunteers Week is a celebration of individual courage and commitment. It is a tribute to all those millions of foot soldiers whose only weapon is empathy, whose only goal is to make our world a better place to live in. Welcome to Public Forum, where we discuss the people who are making a difference to our world. On this very special eve, we have with us a very distinguished panel comprising Mr. Ranjan Kaul, who's the placement advisor. I volunteer overseas. Ms. Sharmila Sinha, who's a writer, communicator, development projects, as well as Mr. Rajiv R. Singh, who's the director, Service Corps, American India Foundation. Welcome to the show. Rajiv Singh, when it comes to their being recognized and them being actually recognized, how do you see this?
When we talk about recognition of volunteers, I think that in the Indian context, we have a long way to go before we can actually claim that we are recognizing our volunteers. At the international level, yes, I mean there has been recognition given to volunteers. In the Indian context also, I mean when it comes to certain kinds of volunteers, I mean people who are working through organized volunteering channels, I think they are getting at least some recognition. There are hundreds of thousands of people who are doing volunteering and they are just unknown. So I would say that unless we really make special efforts to recognize the people who are doing a lot of work as unknown people, we have not really achieved what we should be doing.
Okay, yes. So we are talking about the International Volunteers Week. This is the week starting from June 1st to June 7th. The idea originated in UK, as it was caught on in India, where 24 million people are affected by natural disasters every year, needs this volunteer force like no other country. We recognize this. Highly specialized and strongly committed individuals work at the grassroots level in remote areas. They are a great link between the communities and the local governments, development agencies and non-governmental organizations. But for these volunteers, the tsunami story would have been very much different. Perhaps it would have been even more tragic had they been not there. Their role in greening the world, in bringing peace in war zones, in wiping tears, and is perhaps unmatched and unmatchable. When it comes to the recognition, Mr. Rajiv, I asked you earlier also, do you think that incidents like tsunami have actually made people realize the presence of the volunteers and obviously the immense support that these volunteer groups provide to us?
I would say yes. I mean, in terms of disasters, that is one of the times or one of the occasions when there's a big disaster that volunteers really come out in big numbers and they reach the site of the disaster, whether it's a train accident or whether it's a big disaster like a tsunami or an earthquake. Also, media gets an opportunity to carry stories of volunteers, which under normal circumstances they're not really doing. So definitely that is an occasion when volunteers are getting the recognition that they need. But unfortunately I would say that there have been multiple disasters in the past few years, but there is no concerted effort to bring some kind of a volunteer organization. I mean I'm making a difference here between a voluntary organization and a volunteer organization.
Okay.
I mean, when I'm talking in terms of a volunteer organization, it is an organization that's which will have promotion of volunteering as its main aim. Something like the National Volunteer Corps, something like the Peace Corps that exists in the United States. I mean, we don't have a national level government run or a national run organization at a big level, which we can say is purely committed to the task of promotion of volunteering in this country. So I think that, I mean, sporadically, yes, we do see a lot of recognition being provided to volunteers during those times of disasters, but we need to really do much more.
Okay, so when we compare the volunteer organization and the voluntary organization, as he's very well pointed out, I wanted to make it actually ask it from you that how does it differ from an NGO in any respect? Because some people tend to mix the two terms together, mix the two organizations, the two groups together.
What happens is that we have what are called NGOs. These are non-government organizations. By definition, when an organization is not being run by the government, it becomes an NGO. I mean, by the broad definition. But here, when we are talking about NGOs, they are usually registered under the Societies Registration Act or the Public Trusts Act or one or two other acts which are meant to register NGOs. People who work in NGOs may have come to do the kind of work that they are doing motivated by a volunteer spirit. But it is very difficult to sustain yourself doing just the kind of volunteering that one does. So they look for public grants, or they approach grant making organizations, and they raise resources maybe by other means as well. I mean, like by charity shows, by contacting individuals, corporates, whatever. And once they do that, this is used to run the organization, and then it is pretty much run like any other organization.
Well, talking about the role of the NGOs as well, Mr. Kaul, how do you see that NGO have helped basically in the upliftment of in the social upliftment of our country to a larger extent?
Well, I think they've been there because they've had the guts to go out and hit hard at the issues which really matter to us, which maybe the government is kind of soft-footing around, or people are soft-footing around, and they've gone and said, well, these are the issues, and let's start working right at the grassroots level and not come out with fabulous policies but not really see what's happening at the grassroots. So they've been very major in pushing the government to look at their own policies and work on development. And we're talking about International Volunteer Week, and we're talking about volunteers here, paid and unpaid. We just made a distinction between the two before falling into this report. But what do you see, Sharmilaji, are the main traits of a volunteer? Because you have been a volunteer for so long, you've been associated with, in fact, you have been associated with groups also. What do you see basically forms the trait of a volunteer?
Trait of a volunteer is definitely commitment, and that zeal to go in where nobody sort of, to go out and help. These are the main things, and without caring that there could be hazards or whatever, you just walk in where you are needed. So this is the crux. This is where it is.
So that's basically a volunteer who shares the feeling of empathy. Let's listen to what people generally believe and how do they see the NGOs and the Voluntary Week.
It's a good thing, though it's I think it's first time we are celebrating such a thing in India. It's a good thing to appreciate people, especially young people who are doing something for the society.
ये एक ऐसा वीक है जिसमें जो हमारे युवा हैं, युवा वर्ग है हमारे देश के, वो जिस भी प्रकार की जो प्राकृतिक आपदा आती है या फिर कोई मतलब बहुत बड़ी विपत्ति आती है, तो उसमें वो खुल के आगे आते हैं और अपनी सामाजिक उत्तरदायित्व को समझते हुए वो उन प्रभावित लोगों के लिए काम करते हैं.
इसमें ये जो एक वीक का वॉलंटियर्स डे है, इसमें जो वॉलंटियर्स है उन्हें सम्मानित किया जाता है और उन्हें प्रोत्साहित किया जाता है कि वो और कुछ वॉलंटियर करे और भी कुछ सामाजिक आपदा है उसमें वॉलंटियर करे, तो ये बहुत अच्छी बात है.
Right now we are joined by another caller from Thiruvananthapuram, Ms. Shobha George. Ms. George, ask your question.
Okay, right now we are joined by another caller. Hello.
Hello, yeah, Ms. George, can you hear me? You please, I request you to lower down the volume of your television set.
We are taking care of a home care palliative project from Regional Cancer Center. We need volunteers who are committed. How can we train them well?
Okay, thanks a lot, Shobhaji, for asking this question. Well, she's asking about training the volunteers well. Mrs. Sinha, would you like to answer?
Yeah, I mean, she will, as part of her organization, she'll need to identify what exactly is it that the volunteers are going to be doing in the organization. And then she can link up with some other organizations in the area, or maybe she can get in touch with some of us or whatever. We can also look for organizations for her. Because I mean, I'm not being able to understand what exactly they need the volunteers for. I mean, what are the kind of training needs that they have in the area, so that I mean, once we know that, then maybe we can refer them to some organizations in that region who can be helpful in training.
Okay, thanks a lot to all of you for joining us in this discussion. Definitely it's time that if you have something to do for other people, if you want to do something for the betterment of mankind, you are not required to be tagged as volunteer. You just need to do your work and prove yourself as a good volunteer. This is all we have to say at the closure of the International Volunteer Week. That's all for today in Public Forum. Thanks for joining us. Namaskar.